Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here. So Anthony Joshua successfully avenges the first defeat of his career by defeating Andy Ruiz Jr. by a unanimous decision. In the process, he becomes a two-time heavyweight champion and he regains his IBF, WBA and WBO heavyweight titles. Now this was a very different performance from Anthony Joshua. He made several adjustments from the first fight and fought a completely different fight, which resulted in him winning this fight. Although it was a different performance from Anthony Joshua, it was the type of performance many of us speculated that was needed to win this fight, and he really executed that type of style, and he outboxed Andy Ruiz for pretty much the whole fight. He really won this fight at a canter, if I'm being honest. The scorecards were wide, and rightly so. For the most part, Anthony Joshua was always in control. He started the fight off extremely well, moving on his feet, popping the jab, and looking for that right hand without overextending. He caught Andy Ruiz in the first round with a lovely flush right hand, and it caused a bad cut on Andy Ruiz. And that first round really set the tone for the rest of the fight. You know, Joshua moving on the back foot, utilising that jab, and he'd only let go of that right hand when he knew he could land it, and he really wasn't getting involved in anything silly, giving Andy Ruiz Jr. a chance to counter. That was really the story of the fight, and when it was on the outside, which was the majority of the fight, Andy Ruiz was really struggling to close the range. A lot of us sort of speculated, yeah, Ruiz has very quick hands, but he's got slow feet. If you can keep him on the outside behind a jab, he's going to struggle. You know, go back and watch his fight with Joseph Parker, for example. And Joshua just exploited Ruiz's weaknesses. And ultimately, that's what boxing's about. If you've got the attributes to exploit somebody's weaknesses, you need to implement that type of game plan to, you know, beat your opponent. And that's what Joshua did. You know, height and reach, keeping it at range, using his legs, and it was a kind of textbook boxing performance from Anthony Joshua. As the rounds went on, Ruiz Jr. was falling further and further behind, and you got the sense real quick he needed to hurt Anthony Joshua, and he never really did that. He got close on a couple of occasions and landed some good clubbing shots, but Joshua took them quite well. There was one instance when I think Joshua was semi-buzzed, where he kind of held on straight away afterwards, but Joshua was never seriously hurt in this fight, and he always looked fairly comfortable, to be honest. And yeah, I felt he boxed really well, you know, utilising the legs, utilising the height and reach advantage, and he picked some really nice shots. Joshua's jab was as good as I've ever seen it, to be quite honest. You know, hard jab, keeping his man at bay, and the right hand behind it, while it wasn't thrown, you know, a boatload of times, when it was thrown, it was accurate and it was causing damage. Joshua was picking his shots really well and not really wasting much. Whereas Ruiz, like I say, he was just kind of following Joshua around, waiting for Joshua to fall in or exchange, and that never happened. And as a result, Andy Ruiz Jr. was basically totally ineffective. And yeah, very good boxing display from Anthony Joshua. Interestingly, Joshua said he had a lot of advice from Vladimir Klitschko leading up to this fight, and this was the most Klitschko-like performance from Anthony Joshua in his career to date. It was kind of reminiscent of Vladimir Klitschko in certain aspects, and maybe that's Vladimir's influence rubbing off on Joshua, because I know Joshua thinks very highly of Vladimir. And, you know, apparently Vladimir has been giving him advice in the build-up to this fight, so maybe that's that Klitschko influence rubbing off on Joshua. Maybe that's why he boxed the way he did. But, you know, he certainly looked very good doing it. I thought he did anyway. And, you know, I think the weight loss definitely helped Joshua. We've never seen Joshua that light on his feet. We've never seen Joshua be able to move for 12 rounds like that without gassing. He was tired, don't get me wrong, but, you know, not to the point where he was panicking, where it could all go wrong. He was quite composed, and yeah, I certainly think that weight loss really helped him. Like I said, better feet, better movement, better gas tank. I really don't think it's affected his power, to be honest with you. He was catching Ruiz Jr. with some very good shots. A lot of those shots would have knocked out a lot of heavyweights. I think it's just that Ruiz Jr. has a hell of a chin, to be honest. Ruiz Jr.'s chin, in my opinion, is one of the best in the division, because he was getting caught by some monster right hands in this fight, and even a few good left hooks as well, as Ruiz was coming in, and, you know, he ate those shots like M&Ms. Like, those shots never really fazed Ruiz, and I don't think that's because of Joshua's punch power at the lighter weight. I still think he hits very hard. Like I've said, I just believe Ruiz Jr. has a hell of a chin. But credit to Joshua for performing the way he did. He showed great composure, he followed the game plan, and he rebounded from an embarrassing defeat. There was a lot of pressure on him. A lot of people were speculating his career could be over should he lose. So he come through adversity in regards to losing the first fight, and then he comes back to win the rematch, you know, showing a lot of mental fortitude and experience, composure, and surely it will only improve him as a fighter going forwards. So yeah, good performance from Joshua, good boxing display. He boxed well without running. I've seen people say online he run. That wasn't running. He was moving. He was stepping around Ruiz. He was keeping range, but he wasn't running. He was tagging Ruiz up with the jab. He landed some good straight rights and big left hooks. He was still landing big shots while moving backwards, so certainly wasn't running, in my opinion. As for Andy Ruiz Jr., in regards to his performance, I just think his weaknesses got exposed, to be honest. I've said it before with Andy Ruiz. If you make the guy close distance, if you keep him at range and you're taller and longer, he is going to struggle, and that's what happened against Joshua. I really don't think there's anything much more to it than that, to be honest. I've seen people say online Ruiz Jr. was too heavy and he should have come in lighter. Maybe that would have helped him a bit, but Ruiz Jr. is always going to have slow feet. He's always going to be a shorter, smaller heavyweight, and he's always going to struggle with that style, in my opinion. Maybe the weight loss would have helped him a tad, but I don't think it would have changed the result of what happened last night, to be honest. But he can certainly come back. He's still a top 10 heavyweight. He proved that in the first Joshua fight, and, you know, he showed a really good chin in this rematch. So Ruiz Jr. can come back. He's no slouch. He can be involved in some really fun fights. A really good fight for Andy Ruiz Jr. would be Andy Ruiz versus Adam Kalnatsky. Hopefully the PBC could make that happen. We'll see. But as for Anthony Joshua, where does he go from here? I mean, he's got his belts back. I'm sure he will have mandatory obligations. I believe the IBF and WBO will call their mandatories. Don't be surprised to see Joshua vacate the IBF, because nobody really wants to see a Pulev fight. Hopefully, if Joshua goes down a mandatory route, hopefully he fights Usyk next. That'd be a great fight, one I'd love to see. And obviously, in an ideal world, we'd love to see Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder, but that's not going to happen next. We have to just get that out of our minds for now. It's not going to happen next, unfortunately. But, yeah, good performance from Anthony Joshua. I was impressed with his composure, his jab, his movement. I felt he looked quite good, and certainly the weight loss was a big factor here for Anthony Joshua. I believe that's the way he needs to be going forwards. You know, the high 230s. I think that's the perfect weight for Anthony Joshua. I really do. But anyway, share your thoughts below. What did you make of this fight? What did you make of Joshua's performance? And also, what chances do you give Joshua in regards to fighting the other top heavyweights? So Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Alexander Usyk, you know, people like this. What type of chances do you give Joshua against those guys based on his performance against Ruiz in the rematch? Share your thoughts below. I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts. Peace.